my name's Garreth Williams, and I run a company called Liine, and we're really into interacting with music, whether that's building performance systems for artists, building professional controllers for software like Ableton Live, but also other software too, for the iPad or the iPhone, and anything else which kind of comes into music interaction. Like we have these Remiix apps which are for music fans, and they can remix their favorite artist, and yeah, anything to do with music and performing and interaction.
Cool. So, what does Ableton mean for you?
No, I think Ableton for me is flexibility. So, it could be a way to get my ideas down really quickly. It could be a way for me to really experiment and to come up with sounds that I might not come up with other software, because I can really use any kind of controller to modulate things or route things in a really interesting way. But also, yeah, software which allows me to do this experimentation, the sketching, but also really finish a track and also perform this in front of an audience.
What is the essence of Ableton's kick-ass factor?
I mean, definitely my favourite thing about Ableton is that it's fast. I think there's lots of software where you can have a lot of possibilities and you can come up with really great results, but definitely when I started using Ableton, I found that I've been using Live since version 2, so that's quite a while ago now, but I just found I could come up with things. Well, I initially bought it to do my live shows, but then once you could use VSTs and this kind of stuff, and you could start using external synthesizers and this kind of thing, I found that it was a really quick way to produce music, and I just found I could do stuff in about a tenth of the time I was doing it in lots of other kinds of software. So.
Amazing. And how do you see your product integrate with Ableton Live?
Well, our first two products are actually Ableton specific products, so they're really focused Ableton tools. And whilst the Lemur obviously is a very flexible toolkit which can work with any piece of software, it does integrate particularly well with Ableton, I think. Particularly because you can have a really customized setup, a really customized template. So even for things like Max for Live patches, which can be wildly different because it's basically just different people's imaginations boiled down into one machine, and we can have a really specific controller just for that thing.
You seem like a visionary. So how do you envision the controller of the future? Will it be wireless? Will it be 3D? Will it be interactive? Will it be
3D would be a lot of fun.
If you weren't limited by technology, if you could just do anything you want, what would you do?
I don't really think in a kind of a limited by technology way anyway. I don't think. I think what really excites me is seeing different kinds of control interact. So I mean, we have a number of touch control products, but what really interests me is how there are certain things that a touch controller does really well and kind of outperforms hardware possibilities, because it's flexible, it's dynamic, but at the same time I think there's a lot of things where actually you really can't beat the kind of tactile performance of a hardware controller, and I think the performer or the artist has to find the right combination of these things. I think there's certain things which are great to do with touch, there's certain things that are great to do in hardware. So one thing which I really want to see happen more of is having controllers which interact really well. So basically maybe a touch controller which interacts really well with hardware controllers, so that it's kind of one system. So yeah, kind of exploring in the future, I'd like to see that kind of explored, how we can really combine these different kinds of control.
You mean in terms of flexibility and in terms of access as well?
Yeah, but also I mean the limitation with hardware control is obviously that you have a finite number of things to grab hold of, but perhaps with a touch controller you can use this to kind of intelligently reassign what happens with the hardware, or this kind of stuff. So I think this is something which is definitely an exciting potential avenue to explore in the future.
Oh, amazing.
And I mean, in the stuff we've been, in the performance systems we've built so far, actually they really have combined. For the stuff we've done Richie Hawtin Plastikman live show, for example, this has touch controllers like Griid and this kind of stuff, but also it uses a mixture of things. And I think it's this combination which is really powerful.
Yeah, well, this is what I wanted to ask you before, because I've heard that you worked with Richie Hawtin, famous Plastikman. So I wanted to ask you about that experience, because obviously you didn't have time to talk about it in the presentation.
Yeah.
How did the process go? Can you run us through the process? What did you do with it? How did you kind of come to conclusions and concepts, with it?
It was kind of came around very naturally. I mean, basically, I'd done a little bit of work with him in the past when he was doing his contact tour, and actually we were working at we've been doing this new thing for the Lemur, and we also had we had various projects which we had going on, and I kind of approached him because I thought he'd be really interested in what we were doing, and at the same time he was also about to get in touch with me because he had this big kind of crazy live set, and he was looking for some kind of advice and some support on how to actually best control this, and he thought we might be able to help. So actually we kind of realized that we both had kind of the other part of the puzzle. So in many senses it really flowed, and it was really natural because I think we kind of had what the other person needed, and it kind of fitted together nicely. I think as well as that, one thing which has been really, really useful for the stuff we do is that he has very specific and demanding needs. So as a performer, he has really advanced live shows, but also he's performing in front of a load of people. Like, these are really, really big shows, so it's really important that things work smoothly and this kind of stuff. So for us as a company who do control products, having this as kind of a laboratory and kind of an acid test is really powerful and really, really helpful.
Oh, amazing. And obviously lots of people are into Ableton, but you know that Ableton is without one hand if you are not using a controller. So, and you know that lots of people are into music technology and performance. So what would you say to those people who are kind of looking for a new way of using controllers in their performance, and how do you think the best way to integrate a controller in music performance?
Yeah.
What is that way?
I think it really depends whether you're in a hurry or not. I really do think the best way is actually to experiment and to kind of take your time and just try different things. I think Ableton is a very playful instrument, and you can have a lot of fun just experimenting and trying out like this controller and how that might interact, and maybe kind of try abusing these things and see what comes out. I mean, actually with the Lemur, for example, you can do a lot of stuff which is really which people who originally developed the Lemur or anyone wouldn't really have imagined someone doing, but actually, and I guess with live too, I guess the designers of Ableton Live, they build this kind of framework, but they have no idea where people are going to take it. So I think really experimenting and kind of seeing what you enjoy and seeing what floats your boat is the way to go.
Oh, exactly. So what message would you give to those young producers who want to use Ableton and controllers and things like that?
I would say to experiment, to try and start things, try and finish tracks, and don't try and worry about try not to worry about whether it's an amazing track you can release on your favorite record label, but just get stuff done, because I think you generally benefit more from doing a new thing, finishing it, doing a new thing, finishing it, than really kind of worrying about whether the mix is right with this or whether it sounds as good as your favorite record or whatever. So I think really kind of experimenting and just enjoying it.
Great. Thank you, Garreth. It's great talking to you.
Cheers. Thanks.